Hello there. Easter Monday brought a day of mixed fortunes, and it's going to be a similar story throughout the week. Now, across eastern England, we had some sunshine, and where it stayed dry, it was relatively warm, 16 degrees, 61 Fahrenheit. But cloud and rain pushing its way steadily northwards. It stayed rather grey and overcast in western Scotland with just a high of 5 Celsius here.
Now, if you were watching Breakfast over the weekend, you might have seen Louis the Osprey, who became an online star during the first lockdown, returned to his nest in the Scottish Highlands earlier than usual this year.
Yeah, now his mate Dorsia has rejoined him much earlier than in previous years too. It is thought that the rare birds will begin laying eggs in about 3 weeks' time. If you want to follow their progress, you can do so. There's a live stream, that's where those pictures are from, of the nest, and keep up to date on their progress. Brilliant pictures.
I wonder why they've returned early. Do you think it's the weather?
Possibly.
Is it getting warmer? Do they know what Carol said already today, that there's the promise of slightly warmer weather coming? Morning, Carol.
Morning.
Good morning, both. Good morning to you too. It is getting warmer as we go through the next few days. It will take to the weekend before it warms up in northeast Scotland, though. The weather remains unsettled for the rest of this week. Sunny intervals, absolutely. But we're also looking at spells of wind and rain. And by the time we get to Saturday, we'll all be in double figures. And some parts of the south could even be as high as 18 or 19 degrees. Good morning, everyone. Yes, it is getting warmer, Ben, more especially by the time we get to the weekend. For some, though, it's going to be quite a chilly week, particularly so across the northeast of Scotland, where we've got a northeasterly wind. And then the southerly wind spreads across us all during the course of Friday into Saturday, and the temperatures pick up. So we could see 19 degrees. Now, this is more likely on Saturday across East Anglia and the southeast of England, but across, for example, the Northern Isles, where it's been 5 and 6 and will be this week, we'll get back into double figures.
Carol has been talking to us this morning about the possibility of things getting a little bit warmer, but it's looking foggy in York. Morning, Carol.
Morning.
You're absolutely right on all counts, Sal. Yes. Good morning, everybody. It is a foggy start in York, as you can see from this weather watcher picture behind me. Thank you to Gary for sending it in. It's quite a murky start for some of us, quite cloudy, wet.
And a rainbow, a double rainbow. You're treating us today, Carol.
I know how much you love them, Sal.
I do.
You do. Good morning, everybody. This morning, for some of us, it is a chilly start to the day. If you're in Newcastle, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's only 2 degrees here, Belfast 6, a wee bit milder in Southampton at 9 degrees. But the temperature generally is going to go up as we head towards the end of the week. Now, you can see the blue colours across parts of Scotland here, indicating that it is going to be cold for the next few days, milder across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. But by the time we get to next Saturday, look at the ambers sweep right the way across the country. So the temperatures are picking up. But that does not mean it's going to be dry. This is the rainfall accumulation chart. Look at the blues on it, and even this shade of green. This shade of green is up to 70 millimetres of rainfall, falling on already saturated ground. This is not good news at all.
Now, if you were watching Breakfast or even on Breakfast over the weekend, you will have seen Louis the Osprey, who became an online star during the first lockdown, returning to his nest in the Scottish Highlands earlier than usual this year.
Yeah, now his mate Dorsia has rejoined him much earlier, actually, than in previous years as well. It's now thought the rare birds will begin laying eggs in about 3 weeks from now. And if you want to follow their progress, you can do so using this. It's amazing. It's a live stream online of the nest. We'll keep an eye on them for you as well.
They're just getting their place ready early, that's all
Just
it is.
setting up
Being
the house,
organised.
Getting organised, yeah, moving in, making it all nice and cosy.
Let's go to Carol, who has this morning's weather, and it looks glorious behind you, Carol. That was lovely.
Morning.
Good morning, both. Good morning to you too. It is glorious, Sal, for some of us. This is one of our weather watchers' picture taken a wee bit earlier in Herefordshire, but it's not like this across the board. There's a lot of cloud around, there's some murky conditions and also some rain and drizzle. Good morning, both. Good morning to you too. It's remaining unsettled this week. There will be sunny intervals, of course.
Louis the Osprey, who became an online star during the first lockdown, returned to his nest in the Scottish Highlands earlier than usual this year.
Yeah, now his mate Dorsia has rejoined him much earlier than in previous years as well. It's thought that the rare birds will begin laying their eggs in about 3 weeks' time. If you want to follow progress, you can follow this shot, actually. It's a live stream on the website, it's online, and you see how they get on, as we said, just settling in to that nest there. But full coverage, and we'll keep up to date with their progress. Full coverage available of the egg laying online.
Well, it probably is, actually.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think they just know it's spring, don't they? Do you think that's what it is?
I think they knew we were watching.
Also,
Maybe
possibly. I'm not sure.
Bit voyeuristic,
Yeah.
isn't it? Let's talk to Carol. She's got a look at the weather for us. Carol, hello, good morning. How's it looking?
Good morning, both. Good morning to you too. Is looking really changeable is probably a good word to use. Unsettled as well for the next few days. But this morning, for some of us, we're waking up to some sunshine, for example, in Hampshire. But this by no means is the case across the board. For some, it's murky, it's misty, as we can see here in Staffordshire. And we've also got a fair bit of cloud and some rain.
Staying with beautiful landscapes, there is concern that England's national parks are struggling financially, despite the government saying it's now investing an extra £10 million in them this year.
Well, our reporter Gita Pense joins us now from the Peak District. And Gita, it's exactly the time of year when people want to get out and about and visit the national parks.
It is indeed, and there are several issues that our national parks are facing. But first, let me welcome you to Monsal Head here in the Peak District. I can guarantee you behind me there is an absolutely stunning view, but as you can see, the fog is just hiding it at the moment. But this is one of the most popular locations in the Peak District. But as you mentioned, our national parks, those running the national park authorities, are worried about the future. And they say that a real terms cut in government funding in recent years has meant that they're having to make quite difficult decisions. In some cases, that means reducing the footpaths and right-of-ways, the maintenance of those really important footpaths and right-of-ways, and also in some cases closing visitor centres and even having to make reductions in park rangers and staff. Now, the government has recently announced an additional £10 million for our national parks to try and address some of these issues. But those who run parks like the Peak District here, which was actually the very first national park to be created back in 1951, they say they're still worried about the long-term sustainability of these beautiful places and the access that they can provide for us when they're struggling with funding issues.
Morning, Gita. Well, not sure you've got the right weather today, but I know the sun will come out eventually and people will want to visit.
Absolutely. In fact, 13 million people visit the Peak District every year. I'm here at Monsal Head, and behind me, I promise you, is an absolutely spectacular view that's being hidden by the fog currently. And the big attraction here in Monsal is the Monsal Trail. It's 8.5 miles and it goes through an old railway viaduct and through the Monsal Dales. But of course, key to ensuring that places like this, not just here in the Peak District, but all national parks, is that the trails, the footpaths, the right-of-ways are well maintained, and that is currently being compromised. Now, those in charge of our 10 national parks say that a real term cut in government funding is leading to very difficult decisions, which include reducing the maintenance of footpaths, but also closing or a threat of closure to visitor centres and staff cuts. Well, to tell us more about it this morning, I'm joined by Phil Mulligan, who is the Chief Executive here at the Peak District National Park. Morning, Phil.
Good morning.
Can you tell us a bit about the challenges that you're facing here at the moment?
Well, it's been really difficult. Real term cuts of around 40% over 10 years. We're all in national parks in England having to make some very difficult decisions. The role that we play for the nation is so vital. We're incredibly cost effective in providing people with opportunities to access nature, to get health and well-being benefits, in helping recover nature and mitigate against climate change. And all of that is being threatened by short-term government funding decisions and not giving us an increase just in line with inflation for our core grant.
And, you know, one of the things that's come up is that some national parks are having to reduce the maintenance of footpaths. And of course, these places were created, designated as national parks to make sure the public could access them. So that's a big issue.
Absolutely. We've got 1,600 miles of rights-of-way just in the Peak District alone. We have 20 million people who live within an hour's travel of the Peak District, so we have huge visitor pressure. People using the footpaths, that has an impact. They've got to have the surfaces maintained, you've got to cut back the vegetation, repair the gates and the stiles and so on. We've got a brilliant team of staff and volunteers who do that, but with a lack of funding, and our local authority partners face the same as well, it is putting pressure.
And just to say though, the government has just recently announced an additional £10 million to national parks to try and address some of these issues.
Well, of course, that's helpful, but we get a decision like that a few weeks before the start of the financial year, when what you really need to make long-term funding decisions is knowledge of what your budgets are going to be over the next few years, and that's been a real challenge for us.
And this year, of course, is the 75th anniversary of the Parliamentary Act, which created what we see now, these national parks that we have across the country. As someone who's in charge of the Peak District National Park, how are you feeling about the future?
Well, the future of national parks has never been more important. We were created for the nation. We've got a vital role to play in helping address climate change, in recover nature, and in providing this incredible platform for people to get exercise and well-being and connect with nature. So our role has never been more important, and really for a relatively small amount of government funding we could be doing so much more for the nation for the next 75 years.
OK, thank you very much. Well, the government does say that it fully supports national parks, and as I mentioned earlier, there is this additional funding that is being given to national parks in this financial year. And of course, as we heard there, millions of people visit the Peak District and all 10 of our national parks. And in fact, there'll be a new national park being created very soon. And whilst you can't see the landscape behind me, I'm sure many of us have visited spaces near where we live or travelled somewhere in the country, and there is this real strong desire to preserve them for the future.
I actually really like that, Gita. It's really dramatic where you are, isn't it? It's very atmospheric, let's say. Thank you. Really nice to see you.
I don't believe you.
What?
Do you really like
quite
that?
like that.
Would
It's
you
quite
walk in? It's very moody.
Moody. Let's go with moody. Yeah.
I think I'm a fair weather walker.
Sunshine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the only way.